I set a quality standard. Um, and this is really important in the pre-counter stage. So what we do is when we get that first email and we look at the CTA and the budget, which is also important to have the provisions, we take a look at any of the predatory provisions in there. And by predatory, I mean the things that sponsors have in there that could potentially harm a site's ability to perform the trial. Three of them come to mind, and I'll come to the others here in a minute. But number one is withholding. So withholding is, in other words, it's kind of like if you were a tenant to a landlord and you have to give a deposit. Imagine that, only every single time you do work and they're supposed to pay you, they can just discount a certain amount and hold it until the very end, until the job is done, and then they'll release it to you. One, I should note that was fine, I guess, when sites were responsible for mailing in CRFs and before EDC. I mean, that's kind of where it came from because they needed some kind of a deposit or earnest money to make sure that sites actually did their work. But that's long gone. EDC has pretty much taken over the industry. And there is no reason why withholding should be a thing anymore. The other thing is, and this just happened, like we just got, one of our sites just got a deposit, random deposit, have no idea. It came from a very large CRO. I have no idea what this is for. It took a long time to try to get someone to answer the question, but the deposit that we got was from a trial that closed 9.5 months ago. 9.5 months ago. And then all of a sudden the site gets a check. Okay, so how is that supposed to work contractually? IWOs, everything should be done by 60 days of closeout. So it doesn't work. And all of that money should have been in the site's bank account years, and I mean years before that. It should have been paid, when the site earned the money rather than 9.5 months after a trial closed out. We're talking about holding on to this money for a substantial amount of time. So that's one, and it can be presented in a number of ways. In a contract, sometimes it goes from low to high. In other words, we're going to take 10% off the top and give it to you at the end. And the other way around is they'll go from high to low, and they'll say, we'll give you 85% and then save 15% at the end. However the contract words it all says the same. They are withholding money that should be going to sites when they perform services. That's number one. Number two, depending on the site, is what's the payment terms? It's most of the time for the auto pay. So quarterly. I've seen a biannual payment term. Come on, guys. You're going to work for like 9 months, then hope to get paid in 6 months. It's just crazy. And then IWOs. So any IWO that goes by the occurrence of expense, especially when you're working with very slow moving CROs or in a hospital system that is really slow to report things to you, it can actually risk a site's ability to get paid for the services they do, because if they don't meet that window of opportunity to invoice, they've just forfeited their ability to request those funds. Really, really, really risky for sites. So withholding payment terms, IWOs, all giant red flags. And I mean, if I see that in a contract, it's a red flag. And so the other thing to consider is certain vendors. Are you required to use a payment portal? That's a major risk. Are there certain couriers or vendors? So there's quality standards that you can do to check on a trial. And in this case, like we'll just take withholding because that's the one that I've pretty much just written off. Like I'm not going to do withholding. So you get the contract in an email, and then you look at it and just do a real quick glance. Boom, boom, boom. Look for the quality things that your site has drawn a line to and says, this is not allowed at our site. And then respond. So, for example, here, it's withholding. If you see withholding in a contract, it's okay to respond to them and say, hey, thanks so much. We got your document. Unfortunately, your trial doesn't meet our site's minimum quality standards. In order for us to proceed with this negotiation, we need you to send us back a new first offer without withholding. So take it off before the top. We're not even going to think about it otherwise. I've even gotten to a point where I'm negotiating so many trials that if they refuse to take withholding off the top, if they refuse to make it part of it, I just don't do the negotiation. I'll tell the site, figure it out. You guys can go get someone else to negotiate. I'm not even going to touch it, because I will tell you this right now, sponsors and CROs, any contract that has withholding in it is literally not worth my time or the site's time, because you are already establishing a level of mistrust that should not be there if you had awarded the site the trial in the first place. So strong words, but very true. And I think that you'll find a major connection between not having withholding on a trial and a successful site enrollment. So don't waste anyone's time. Just take it out of the industry.